Yeah, dog, and we're live. Welcome to R2R live stream episode number 24. All right, this is the number 24 episode that we've done these live streams. Now we're broadcasting on YouTube. We're broadcasting live on X. So don't forget, guys, if you're on X, you gotta like the X post and then repost it to everybody. I'm hearing myself. Double feedback. Double feedback. Okay, so don't forget, if you're on X, like the post and repost it out there to everybody that is listening. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, post notifications, pound the like button, drop a comment, and always remember, I'm not a financial advisor, for damn sure not a professional. This is cryptocurrency. You could get wrecked. And don't ever allow a social media influencer on any social media platform out there to influence you when it comes to cryptocurrency. You could get wrecked. Now that we got that out of the way, don't forget the links in the description. You need a smartphone, the tap to earn hottest the hottest tap to earn um, protocol platform game in existence right now. The most addicting game is Bad Bunny. Links in the description. You need a smartphone, Telegram. Connect to the link in the description and you can start tapping to earn that airdrop for the meme token on SwapX. So now, getting into today's video, talking about Hyper. I did a post earlier on X, right? I posted on X, and we're gonna review what I meant by this post here. And let me bring up that post really quick on my screen here for you guys so you can see. So if we're taking a look at the post I did earlier, I said for Hyper Protocol, it cost 0.2 Ethereum for an 88-day max length miner. That's with plus 100 power. Now, of course, you could do much more than that, but the default on the website when you go to make a miner is 88 days, which is the max amount of time, plus the 100 power miner is on default. So that would cost you for 0.2 Ethereum, the value in USD, $479, right? Gets you an estimated of 579,206,499 Hyper tokens at the end of the claim. And that's the estimate. Versus if you swapped for that 0.2 ETH right now, which you would swap into the Titanx, and then you would use that Titanx at a $479 value to swap for Hyper, that would only get you 144,712,990 Hyper with no H-rank bonus, right? No bonus whatsoever. So I said that because I want people to realize, right now is the time to make miners. There's several reasons why I'm going to tell you why is the time to make miners. A lot of things are happening. If you guys saw the announcement earlier with Eric from Dragonx, right? Eric from Dragonx announced that Hydra, which is the version of Hyper, but for the Dragonx system. It is the Hyper for Dragonx. It's like a build on Dragonx platform. And it's just like Hyper, but instead of using ETH, you're going to enter to create those miners using Titanx. So it's going to burn Titanx. Let me get to the chat really quick. J Perry 14, what it do? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, important things to point out to as well. If we go to Mike Dean's Dune.com page, if you go to Dune.com, type in Titanx, you'll see Mike Dean has done a community dashboard where we're going to take a look as it stands today. This is the last big day of inflation for the Titanx ecosystem. The last big day of tokens coming out from miners. And you see as it goes all the way down, we'll look at this chart here, from September 15th all the way down to December 4th here to nothing into the new year. And the reason being, right, when miners were first created on Titanx, am I on the page? Did I click on the page? So yeah, if you look at September 15th here, today's the highest day of inflation, and then it just drops down drastically. It goes all the way down to practically nothing for the Titanx future supply that's going to come out from miners. When Titanx first came out, due to the marketing and promotion, short-term miners were so profitable that was drawing in traffic for more short-term miners, and then people were making long-term miners. And as time went on, going into 2024, because remember, Titanx launched at the end of October of 2023. As time moved on, within, I would say, what, 30, 60s, about 70 to 80 days into the platform, making short-term miners that people had already made were in the were starting to show negative, right? There was no ROI. And then the price of Titanx kept going down, 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 and eventually it became not profitable to even make a Titanx miner. So due to that, people stopped making them completely. That's why you see there is practically no inflation for all of the rest of the remainder time of the year left in 2024. Today is the last big day, right? Today is as big as it's going to get. You can see right here, boom. That is going from hyperinflationary to motion towards hyper deflationary, especially with all the build on Titanx ecosystems like Hydra when it comes out. So what you saw there was a simulation of what could be possible not only for Hyper, but for Hydra. But they're in two different scenarios, right? The Titanx ecosystem, when it launched, it was first ever of its kind, an unknown process that we were going to take. And then we can collect data from that and kind of speculate, okay, since it had a great start, Hyper was coming out, and we realized Hyper was like Titanx when it first launched. Possibly this could have a good start as well. And what happened almost within like the 30 days, because it's only been out for 192 days. We're 4 days away from Vortex. We're going to get into that. When these miners started to go into circulation, like people were making miners, they made short-term and long-term. The short-term miners got paid out. There was some profit, but that ended it happened way sooner than it did in Titanx. Titanx had like a 2.5 month period where short-term miners were paying off fat, not Hyper. And that's due to the price of Titanx continuously going down during this time when it launched 192 days ago. So what do you take from that? What is the data that we see from there? What information do we have at hand that tells us, paints a story here? So because the Titanx price was in a major decline, Hyper was directly impacted, right? Where the ROI didn't last. Short-term miners paid out like up until like 20, 30 days and it was over with. All the long-term miners, as you look at your miners from your dashboard, became negative because it was tied in. If we look at Hyper, Hyper is paired with Titanx. Hart's Law, all tides will rise together. The idea is you pair up your LP with Titanx. When Titanx succeeds and starts to move, so will your token. But the effects, if we look at the 6-month chart, because it launched 192 days ago, the effects of that was the early stage of Titanx, except it didn't last long. It was like a 2-week period up, and it just went boom. So we never count this because this is when it gets botted, right? Titanx charts is identical to that, so is DragonX. But Titanx had a period of, trading up, and it trended down, and it took, like 60 plus days to start to really go down to the bottoms. But this happened fast. It was a quick death. Everyone's like, whoa. So what happened? Right? Yeah, I'm looking at the chart. What happened? The price went down. So people stopped making miners. They stopped making miners. And that's because there was no ROI. It didn't make sense. People stopped talking about Titanx. People definitely didn't want to have anything to do with making hyper miners because they felt wrecked. Except if you held, right? Now, during that time where no miners are being made, it's like a huge period. If you go to take a look at the chart, right? It didn't make sense to make miners because there was no ROI. Look how long it went flatlined from the time it launched, right? It didn't get any life in this bad boy until recently. There was some light shed. There was light in the darkness, right? And it just was struggling because of what happened. So the volatility, it's always been there, but now you see a gradual increase because the performance of Titanx, which during the time when it was struggling, right, No miners were being made, so there was not a ton of inflation to come out. They could have been coming out this entire time. But in addition to that, regardless, right now, if you go to the hyper.win app, you see that if you make a miner, it's 0.2 ETH, it's 314% ROI. So people are making miners because the ROI is there. It's in the 300 percentile. Now, you have during that period in time where there was just a dead silence of miners being created, this was still increasing by the day. Every 24 hours, the difficulty increases. It gets harder and harder to mint Hyper, just like Titanx is designed, every 24 hours. And Titanx is about to have its first halving, right? So this has been going on while no miners are happening. So the increase to create miners, it didn't have that successful period like Titanx did. So that just means less tokens compared to Titanx. So now it's in an environment while everything has happened, right? Everything has happened since then, which is the miners increasing as far as difficulty. The supply, as far as what's happening in inflation, doesn't meet anywhere near what Titanx inflation is. But everything's happening at the time where miners are in ROI, but the flywheel is in full blown effect. What do I mean by that? Well, you got Dragon X showing that it's leveraged to Titanx and it's outperforming it based off the mechanics. You got tons of build on Titanx protocols that have launched that are burning Titanx. So what would be next for Hyper? Build on Hyper protocols, right? To do exactly what build on Titanx protocols are doing for Titanx, and that's burn and get tokens out of circulations. But before we go into speculating that more developers are going to build on Hyper, which you should see with the excitement that's happening, because we saw the simulation of build on Titanx, what it's done. We just saw Inferno, which is one of the quickest, hottest build on Titanx protocols in existence to ever come out, other than DragonX will have its delayed effect when it gets its ETH payout at the end of October, which was, it really is success. The success was due to the Ethereum that came in through the miners that went into the pools, and then the Genesis wallet dumped in there and gave it the lion's share. So it was a forced entry, right? That was kind of like, you can call it artificial, due to a big thank you for Jake doing that, to be a benevolent whale to do this. We people love it or hate it. It happened, right? But Inferno, they built the meme token, right? It's done with its mint phase. No more is going to be minted in circulation. And they have protocols lined up like Flux that are going to be built on it to burn that token. So they've had all these simulations and they've seen everything happen already and how the flywheels affect things. And now they're in a position at the hottest period in time, right? Why is it the hottest period in time? Go back to Mike Dean's the Mike Dean's Dune.com site, the community dashboard, and you see the inflation is going down to practically nothing. So everything that's been built on Titanx, like Inferno and DragonX, it's outperforming and pacing everything as far as price and going hyper deflationary. Inferno is probably going to be the best investment I made in this build on Titanx protocol. So, anyways, jumping back to Hyper, right? Jumping back to Hyper, we're going to take a look at the white paper here, because in just a few days, about 4 days out, this is all going to take place. All right, we'll read through it, and the ending is the best part of what's about to happen with the Vortex. So the Hyper Vortex, 10% of all the Titanx bought with ETH via wrapped ETH and Titanx gets stored in the Vortex. 8% of all the ETH used to start Hyper miners gets stored in the Vortex. The Vortex triggers every 98 days, guys, together with the 98-day cycle payout. So the Titanx and the Vortex, 100% used to buy and burn Hyper via Titanx Hyper, gets released every 98 days. The ETH and the Vortex, 100% that's used to buy Titanx via wrapped ETH Titanx, then buys and burns Hyper with the Titanx it just bought which gets released every 98 days for the first time at day 196. Well, what do you know? If you come to the site here, we're at day 192. That is 4 days away. 4 days away. 4 days away. The Vortex, if you go to the buy and burn tab, is going to go into full blown effect. That's 381 Ethereum. It's got $252,000 worth of Titanx. This is going to be triggered for the first time. And the people that are in the payout cycle that are staking are going to get their payouts here as well. So the Vortex is going to come in hot, and it's going to happen every 98 days, and it's going to continue to do this. This mechanic for the first time ever, and why I think it's an important time to make these miners and why it makes the most sense is because this is going to happen in 4 days, and I'm tying in with Eric's announcement of Hydra is going to be within the next 8 hours. At any time, it can happen in 5 minutes, 1 hour. It could be happening now during this live stream. The Titanx ecosystem and community is going to be focused on Hydra, which is good. It's going to burn Titanx. It's going to burn a lot of Titanx, right? It's going to burn so much Titanx that the price is going to be impacted, especially now that we're curving all the way down to nothing when it comes to inflation. It goes all the way down to practically nothing to the end of the year as far as Titanx inflation. That's going to be after 1 year of complete difficulty increases every 24 hours. Well, Hyper's been doing that, but Hyper had no miners being built for a while. It has the Vortex. So the Vortex is going to start, burning the heck out of miners. You're going to see build on Hyper protocols probably surface out of the blue. And the funny thing that I see is the distraction that's going to be there. It's a good distraction, by the way. It's a perfect distraction because it's a perfect time for people to go, let me buy some Hyper and let me make some Hyper miners. And the Hyper miners are better to make versus buy anyway. So why would you buy? Better to mine it. Delayed gratification, 88 days out, whatever you want to go, 10 power, 50 power, 100 power. You can go up to 10,000 power and get paid out 88 days from now. And during that time, the entire flywheel built on Titanx, built on DragonX when it comes to Hydra, and then what the Vortex is doing, and then any other protocols that are built on Titanx, protocols that are burning Titanx, is going to accelerate at a rapid speed where we're going to see a ton of Titanx burned out of circulation. We're going to see a lot of Hyper being burned out of circulation soon here with the Vortex being launched. And the actual pool, right? The actual pools for the buy and burn, which right here you'll see buying Titanx pools 1,024. So this has 1,024 Ethereum. That's $2.4 million. That's buying and burning Titanx at 1 ETH every 180 minutes. You got the Hyper buy and burn, which is using Titanx, right? To just go to the docs here. You'll see how this works, right? You'll see Hyper virtual mining, Hyper Vortex, and the buy and burn ETH, buy and burn Hyper. So what does it do? And I'd rather read it from here so that you guys understand what you're looking at when we look at the white paper. So for the buy and burn, the Titanx that gets bought via step 1, which is buy Titanx, goes to buy Hyper off of the market via Titanx Hyper and burns 80% of that forever. The remaining 20% bought gets distributed to stakers via payout cycles. This contract can be used by any builder on top of Hyper, similar to Titanx. Why I was just saying, any builder. What is going to incentivize builders to come out of the blue now is this opportunity that people haven't built something directly for Hyper that's really hit an excitement, but we've seen what works. We've seen Inferno, we've seen DragonX. So what could be done to be added to Hyper to create that opportunity again after we've seen all these simulations? Maybe a token that's like DragonX but for Hyper, right? Maybe a meme token like Inferno that's built directly for Hyper. Maybe a Helios that utilizes Titanx to make miners, but for Hyper. We've seen everything, the successful ones that have worked. So now a developer can go and say, oh, I've seen the impact of what they've done here. Let's duplicate that for Hyper. And what has Hydra done? They've duplicated what Hyper was set to do for Titanx in the long run and what it's about to start doing 4 days from now with the Vortex. Okay? So don't sleep on this because Hydra's coming out. If you got liquid Titanx, bravo. You can go into Hydra. That's going to be very exciting. But if you sleep on Hyper, right? I think the best time to get into something is when the crowd goes this way. When the crowd goes this way and starts going participating or buying this, and you remain here and you participate there, but you're focused on what they're ignoring because everyone's got the shiny object syndrome. And this is not so much shiny object syndrome. It's just shiny object participation, we will call it, because they were participating in the ecosystem, which is healthy and good for the overall Titanx ecosystem. But if you say, hey, I'm going to keep making these hyper miners, and I'm making one a day. On several wallets, I'm making one a day. On my public wallet, I barely started making miners like a day or two ago. I'm going to do like $40 a day, $50, and go up to 100. And I'm stacking them in larger amounts. I'm going to gradually go from a small number. So my other ones I started because I looked at the Dune analytics and I go, a month back ago, I'm going to start making miners. So I just gassed up a bunch of ETH, right? And now I got these big miners coming out, and I'm like, let me scale it down and have different strategies for the big ones to the small ones. So, anyways, Hyper is going to be in a position where everything that's already played out, that's playing out now, and the build on Hyper protocols will start to come. It's designed for that. It's designed for that. It says it here in the white paper. This is your clue here on what's to come before things start to happen. So if you're a project building on top of Hyper and want to implement a buy and burn that buys Hyper off the market and burns it, you can send a portion to the Titanx to our Hyper buy and burn contract, and it will take care of everything else. No need to build your own buy and burn smart contract, right? That's powerful. So this has had the opportunity. This is powerful to be in a position where Jake has seen everything that has launched, everything that's built on Titanx, everything he's built, all his designs. And I think this is a sleeper because it's taking a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of things that have happened. And the Vortex is being launched during a time where the highest day of inflation just hit today. And we're going to gradually go down to barely any inflation towards the end of the year. And if you time it right and make miners now, you'll start getting these hyper miners on an 88-day max before Christmas, a couple weeks before Christmas. What better Christmas present could you give yourself other than a hyper miner? You'd say a Hydra miner too, right? And then a good way to start the new year. During that time, we got 3 months that you would be in these miners starting to come out in like the second week of December, but 3 months for people to build protocols that have already been built that work that they could duplicate. That's all Hydra did was duplicate Hyper with different mechanics and different things, of course. And obviously you're not using ETH for Hydra, you're using Titanx, which is a beautiful thing. And guess what? These platforms that want to create their own, of Jake makes, let's say, or anyone wants to make a token or a protocol that supports Hyper, Vortex is going to burn it. Those protocols are going to burn it. And guess what? They didn't have that crazy extended period of time of miners being made because the price of Titanx was so wrecked during the launch. It was only like a 2-week phase where people were like, I'm not making these miners anymore. The short term and the max are wrecked. Very few made miners. So it's not like you have crazy inflation coming out in the next few months. There's like nothing. But even the ones that are being made now that it's ROI and people realize that they would be in profit to mine, right? The difficulty is increased since it's been out every day, which is about 6.25 months, a half a year of daily difficulty. So all that period in time you had at the beginning to mine a ton, like you did in Titanx, imagine Titanx only having a 2 to 3 week period of miners being made. There would be practically no inflation at this point. But the miner cycle may change for Titanx. Even if they do start making miners, it ain't going to produce a hell of a lot of tokens like we did at the beginning, right? Because everything's based off H rank. So even the people that made a ton of miners on Hyper didn't get crazy H rank bonuses because a lot of miners weren't made after the fact for a while. Now they're being made, and now the pool's going. So now you can earn some H rank, but you would have been in and out in 88 days anyways. Where I still am going to collect bonuses of people make based off T rank, make Titanx miners now on my ones that are collected on a daily basis. a lot of moving parts here. What's Captain saying? We want to buy USDT on Pulse. Is it the teal rep Pulse? There's a USDT that's paired with Pulse. If you're looking at that, but I'm going to stick to the subject here as far as Hyper. Hyper is like the play. As far as X's from here, because you've seen Dragon X have its X's, and it could continue to do multiple X's. Titanx. Now you're looking at Hyper, right? And you're going, oh man, look at the price, look at the liquidity. You smell that? It smells like opportunity. You got a $4.3 million market cap. You got $642,000 in liquidity. Does this look familiar to you? When Dragon X looked super wrecked, and I was talking mad-ish, hating on it, whatever. You can't beat them, join them, right? At the end of the day, where it makes money and it makes sense, that's going to draw anybody, regardless of how you feel. So I always say, don't let an influencer influence you. My thoughts are my thoughts. But does this look familiar to you? Does this not look familiar to you? And then go look at it now. Do you want to plug in the numbers for Dragon X? Go look at the market cap now. 48.9 million, 798,000 liquidity. So things change, man. Look how wrecked Dragon X was for so long, too. That was really bad. It was really bad. You could have bought for 6 zeros and I think what was my purchase there, and was it like Marches? I forget. 6 zeros in it too for many months at a time. Look at the price now. 5 and a 9. It's a lot of X's right there. There's a lot of X's. So things change like that drastically in this ecosystem. So Hydra is going to have a huge amount of traffic going to it. That traffic is going to be focused on Hydra, as it should be. Burn my Titanx and make it more valuable. Thank you. I'm going to participate too. But if you sleep on Hyper, right? You sleep on Hyper, which is Jake's design. Sleeping on Hyper is sleeping on Jake. Do you want to sleep on Jake, or do you want to roll with him because you saw what he did for people when it comes to Titanx, and everything that's built and the way it's designed is because he came forward and said, you make something, here's how you do it. You got to pair with Titanx. I believe in Hart's Law. Cool. This is what I expect. Boom, 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 boom. Hyper will succeed. It is Jake's second baby. And let's look at the Hyper stats really quick. We'll look at the Hyper stats really quick here. These are numbers. We'll compare it to Titanx 2 as well. So if you're looking at liquid, 30%. Remember these numbers. 30% liquid, 14% staked, 6.39% for payouts. Man, a whopping buy and burn. The percentage for the buy and burn is like 33.3% bought and burn. Now, if we swing over to Titanx stats here, you go to the stats page, 36.51% liquid. It's about 3% more liquid, 13.5% staked, 35.78% burned. That's about 2% more than Hyper. And then 6.96% in the bot protocols build on Titanx. So imagine adding a build on Hyper protocol, right? And it's already 3% liquid, which is a big difference too, because if you start burning that liquid with build on Hyper platforms, well, what do you think, right? And then more people will stake and more people will build. So you're in the best place I feel like it can be in early on before anything is really built on it. It's neck and neck with as far as what's going to be built already for Dragon X. So Dragon X already had no, actually Dragon X is going to have Hydra. So Dragon X is even above Hyper. So whatever builds for Hyper, who builds first, whether Jake builds on it or somebody else, you're in before you're in early. You're set up with making miners early. And they didn't have all that miner inflation at the beginning because everybody would have been wrecked. Or they would have thought they were wrecked based off the ROI when you made your miners. Oh my god, I just got news. It looks like there were shots fired at President Trump at a golf course. Hope he's okay. I'm gonna text. Is he okay? Man, it's so weird. A second attempt. That's crazy. That's crazy. So, 85 viewers. Let's see what's going on YouTube. I'm gonna refresh the YouTube page really quick. See if I got my audience. Is 6 likes on YouTube, 15 watching over there. Versus, let's see what's going on with my people on X. I think X is the place to be, right? I'm gonna go. I'll show you on my screen on X. What do we got here on X? We have 68 viewing versus 15. I mean, the algorithm on X versus YouTube is massive. Only 4 likes and one repost. Come on, people. Where are you Titanx people at? You got to work for those bags. You better get in the comments and start hashtagging, sharing this. Show that you're working for your bags. Anybody that's doing content about Titanx, whether it's me or anyone else, or post, go like it, retweet it, hashtag Titanx, all everything, right? Work for your bags, man. You got to build this community. Right now, the community is desperate for new users. So while you guys are trending hot on X, better go out there and get the show on and popping, man. Especially 84 people hanging out on X, and only 4 likes and one. Oh, we got one. We got some smart people going in there and saying, I'll get the job done. I'll do it. You know, someone's got to put in the work. Someone's got to put in the work, right? And opportunities here, guys. Just wanted to point that out. Way cheaper to mint versus mine and that could change, but I don't think it will because Vortex is coming. So you got Vortex in 4 days. At the same time, you're gonna have Hydra launch. So don't ignore the elephant in the room because I do think it's Hyper. Of course, I've got my bags in Dragon X. I'm excited for Hydra. I can participate with Titanx if I feel like doing it. But I just see crazy opportunity that I'm excited about. So Sunday, go enjoy the day with your family. Don't forget, post this everywhere. Pound the like button on all platforms. Till next time, we'll do it again. Yeah, dog. Sorry, guys.